Okay, eTIMS, spend money, make money. Pay a bill, do a receipt. Get an invoice, do like that. For KRA to know who you are, get on eTIMS, do it now. Deadline is, everybody's just going, as Eric would say. Deadline is here, and it's not a, as we say in Nigeria, it's not an abeg thing. It is you will do. We're not asking you nicely. We're saying it needs to be done. Okay, maybe they're asking you nicely because they need you to do other things as well. But we're having an eTIMS conversation this morning. Caine Wanjau is the co-founder and CEO of Namiri Technology, and we're looking at eTIMS tax compliance, the deadline, why we should actually embrace Digitax. Do you have a shield on your chest?
Well armored.
You're well armored. Okay.
Yes.
Why we should actually embrace digital tax.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here this morning. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. You're in the hot seat, and this is a hot topic. So
yes.
That's why I asked you if you have, like ice under the table, things like that.
Yeah.
Let's welcome you to today's conversation with a proverb from CT.
Well, the proverb is actually from Mauritius.
Oh, sorry. CT's Mauritius proverb.
The island Republic of Mauritius. A hen cannot lay eggs and hatch them at the same time.
Caine?
Yes.
Do you agree with this hen?
Potentially.
Tell us what you think about this proverb. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's well aptly put. I think you have to. Well, one comes before the other. It's like saying you can't put the cart before the horse. Yeah. So sequencing rather is how one has to think of things step by step. Yeah.
It's a good word, sequential.
You like it?
No, it's a very, very good word. Because if you actually consider the very thing that we're discussing now, forget the gadget, forget the process. The conversation is tax, okay? It's sequential. You think it's just the payment of tax. Attached to that payment are very, very, very many things.
Yes.
Now one comes before the other, and then is followed by another, and then another.
Or one would hope.
Oh, they do. They do. Just like the non-payment also.
It's followed by another action.
Yes. It's a sequence.
That's true.
Yes.
Well, okay, then I guess we're jumping right into the conversation then. Because the deadline is fast approaching. I believe it's 31st of March or 28th of March. And where you must all then be registered on eTIMS.
You do know 28th is today.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying today. The 28th today. But end of March, essentially. Yes. So we had the folks from the Kenya Revenue Authority were here a couple of days ago, going through some of the machinations of all of this. And it's interesting because we did not talk about the necessity to do this. It was more or less how we going through the ropes and saying this is what needs to happen. This is what you would face if you hit a query. This is how you should come over it. This is why we need you to do it. But the importance of doing it, okay. And I guess that's why you're here today, Caine. So we're getting towards the deadline, and a lot of folks we've had the conversation, but we've not connected the dots. We've not resonated with this thing. eTIMS, what? Why is it important that we embrace this? Let's start off with that.
Great, thank you. So I think maybe zooming out a bit, as it said, taxes are eternal. We found them, we will leave them here. And I think this whole conversation around eTIMS is how do you digitize, simplify, basically automate the whole process of tax compliance, which is what we do as Digitax. Actually, our tagline is simplifying tax compliance. So because it's something that's coming, the deadline, as you've mentioned, is 31st March. We play in the space of integrators. So the model KRA has come up with is they have their solutions, and they've been basically talking about them and having them in the market. However, for those who want something specific for their industry, or they have systems which they would like to plug in and integrate with eTIMS, that's where we come in. So we are in the group called System to System Integrators. So Digitax is essentially one of the currently licensed system integrators. And we basically help companies who may have an ERP, an accounting system.
ERP?
Yes. ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning.
Thank you.
For bigger businesses, of course, they have all these systems which they use to manage their day-to-day operations. And of course, they'll do invoicing, purchases, and all that through that system. So we then help those organizations basically plug in their system to eTIMS.
Okay.
So for certain businesses, they would find it easier to basically not have to move to a new system, and their preference would be the existing system should be eTIMS compliant.
Okay.
So that's what Digitax does. So we offer mobile applications, we offer online tools. You can also integrate, just depends on your use case and the type of business that you run.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Caine, we're not implying that getting into the system is difficult.
Yes.
That's not the implication of what you said.
No.
Because you said we want to help businesses to be able to integrate.
Yeah.
So oftentimes when we need help, it means that I have trouble or that I am not understanding. So we're not essentially saying, or are we saying that eTIMS, as is being presented by KRA right now, is difficult to navigate. You're going to need some assistance to be able to integrate, and then in order to get yourself running, whether you're an individual, an entity, that it is hard.
Yes.
Is that what we're saying?
No, we're not saying that.
Okay.
We are saying there are different needs for different use cases, different sectors, different industries. So let me give you an example. The insurance industry. The insurance industry over the last 20, 30 years have been digitizing their operations, and they've invested in their own technology and their own systems and their ways of working. So for a business like that, what they would really want, or what would be ideal for them, would be to say, okay, we have these systems, these processes, and would like to be compliant. However, we need something that we can basically integrate, and it allows us to basically send the data directly to eTIMS, so that we're also compliant. So for such businesses, they would then look at the available options and say we need a system-to-system integration. And for them, basically, they then have to avoid the whole process of change management, training all their staff on a new system. And you can pick any industry. If you go to a restaurant, for example, they already have a point of sale, which they use to run their bills. They then don't want the whole admin effort of saying, okay, I'm using my point of sale, and then separately I have this other system on the side that I'm then using to enter the tax details on eTIMS. So for them, they'd like something more seamless. So for any business with a software or a system or any kind of tool that they use to manage their sales and their operations, we would then help them actually integrate and make that system compatible with eTIMS. Yeah.
Compatibility.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Another word you like?
No, it's a good word. But I mean, when you say compatible, what exactly is going to happen?
Okay, so let's take a step back. So with eTIMS, what is the goal? The goal is to be able to transmit tax information in real time as you generate your sale or your transaction. So if I go to a shop and I ask for a meal, or I buy something, at the end of that transaction, of course, I'll pay and I'll get a receipt. Now, that receipt has some requirements for it to be tax compliant. You'd need to show, for example, your PIN. You'd need to show the customer details. If you're a business and you'd like to claim that expense, your PIN has to be on the invoice. So you likely give your details, and then that will be added to the invoice. And then there's some other information like a QR code, which you can then use as a buyer to verify that that's a tax compliant invoice. So it's about now taking all those requirements and then making that system compatible. So you now integrate eTIMS functionality and make sure every time you run your invoice or you're doing your receipt from that system, there's no second step or additional work required to make that invoice tax compatible.
Seamlessly integrated.
Seamlessly integrates. So it sends the information, you get everything you need. And of course, as with eTIMS as a taxpayer, you can always verify by scanning now the QR code that's printed on the receipt. Yeah, so when you talk about compatibility, and integration, it's just making sure there's no second step or there's no additional admin introduced to make a business tax compliant.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Caine, you are an external entity.
Yes.
You're not KRA.
Yes.
Because KRA will tell us certain things because they come from the premise that we must be compliant. It's their job to collect.
Yes.
You as an external entity, one would assume that you're not doing the bidding for KRA. Would you then be able to say unequivocally that this system of eTIMS, that if you put in the information of the business that you have done, of the normal income that you have earned, that it will essentially regurgitate for you what KRA is looking for, and you will not have to do anything else, whether you're working as an individual or whether it's for these companies that you do it for. Essentially put in all the information that is needed, it juggles up the thing, and it brings out the results that KRA is looking for. Without you, if you're doing the right thing, you will not have any problems. Would you vouch for that?
Now, the important thing to remember is to be fully tax compliant, there are 3 steps. So the first one is entering of the information, which is essentially what eTIMS achieves. So as a business, as the example you've given, in the course of your transactions, you'll generate the receipt, that it will be sent to KRA, and it will sit on the KRA systems. So that's step 1. And then the second step is actually now filing of taxes. So what you fill in is essentially now data you'll be able to go and verify, especially for what you call periodic taxes. So if you're paying VAT once a month, for any transaction you do in March, for example, within the month of April, before the 20th, you'll then be able to go and verify, this is all the information that came in. These are my sales, these are my purchases, and basically have a final report, and it gives you now a chance to raise an issue, follow up with someone you bought from if they didn't send you the tax invoice, and so on and so forth. So that's step 2. And then step 3 is, of course, paying of the taxes.
If there's something to pay.
If there's something to pay. So eTIMS essentially automates or simplifies step 1, entering of the data. If you remember previously, or for those who filed VAT, you'd have to fill in a form every month with your sales and your purchases, and then you upload it, and then that transfer you the report. But now with eTIMS, the information is basically being generated and fed in real time. And then now step 2, which is confirmation, or what they call filing, and then step 3, which is payment. So eTIMS is here now to automate that first step.
Okay. From a user point of view, what do we need to do? I mean, I'm sure everybody says, you need to have a gadget, and then you log on, and then you download. What exactly are you supposed to do? Because some folks it's tiring. We've been hearing it, eTIMS, but then so what do you do? Do you go to www.something? Do you download an app on Play Store? What's happening?
Okay, I'll talk about Digitax, because we offer eTIMS compliant solutions. So option 1 is your phone. So you can install an app and use that to basically do all the eTIMS functionalities required. Registering your customers, doing receipts and invoices, credit notes, seeing all the data you require from KRA. So that's option 1. Option 2, you can go online. So there's a web portal where you can go and basically do e-invoicing.
Okay.
So, if you're a lawyer or someone in professional services like a doctor, you can go online and generate an invoice. And then the third one, of course, is now integrating your system with eTIMS. We'll then offer you that option. So as Digitax, given we've been licensed to offer these services, those are the options available if you want to use one of our solutions.
Okay. And now we're looking at a mandatory place for everybody. So everybody asking the question, so it's just me, man. I go to work every day and I come home at the end of the day and I'm done.
Yes.
Do I also have to be, it's you people who run businesses and do consultancies, do I have to be involved in this whole thing? And how do I navigate these very murky waters?
Of course, there's the transition period, and a lot of people are, of course, becoming more and more aware about whether they need to comply and whether they should comply. I think the general information there, or the general way to look at it, is eTIMS was designed to capture a broader tax base. So with TIMS, which is a predecessor to eTIMS, it was mainly geared at taxpayers who pay VAT. But with eTIMS, it's basically anyone in business. There are certain exemptions or exceptions which are in the law. So, for example, airline tickets, pay as you earn. So payroll is not under eTIMS. And there's some others which have been gazetted. But generally speaking, if you're in business, you need to be eTIMS compliant. The other reason that's important is the way now eTIMS will be used is basically to help you clearly account for your expenses. So when it comes now to filing your profit and loss, any expense or, anything you've shown on the cost side needs to be backed with a tax invoice. So if I come to you and buy an advertisement, so I come to Spice FM, I say I want to run a campaign. For that business to properly expense that cost, they would need a tax invoice. Otherwise, when it comes to filing, there will be a gap and they'll be liable now basically to pay higher tax. So it's important for businesses to understand that each and every expense needs to be backed by a tax invoice. So what you then quickly find is
expense by yourself.
No, any expense you incur as a business.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So anything on your cost column needs to have a tax invoice. Yeah. So what you'll then find, it becomes a self-regulating mechanism. Why? Because everyone who's in business will then start saying, okay, I need a tax invoice. So my expense is a sale to you. And if you're selling and everything you're selling needs a tax invoice, then you'll start asking for tax invoices for your expenses. Otherwise, you'll be the one left out of pocket. So with time, I think everyone will now get the hang of it and start saying, okay, all my expenses need to have a tax invoice and all my sales need to have a tax invoice. So it's easier for me now to basically now make sure from a tax management standpoint, everything is done. You don't want this whole issue of scrambling, who paid me, where did this expense come from, and making sure that your tax information is in order.
But you're going to have to put it in every time there's a sale. It's not as though it's going to automatically generate itself. You're still going to have to do the work. Every time there's an expense, you're going to have to input it into the thing, are you not?
Now, of course you have to. However, the thing is now with integrations, for example, you're probably already using a tool. If you're running
so you're already
a business,
on this. Okay.
So say you're using an accounting software.
Yes.
You're putting in all your sales, you're putting in your expenses. So now with an integration, for example, there's no second step required. So as you do your normal course of business, if you have an integration done, then you can basically now be more comfortable that you don't have to do a second step. So the whole idea here is as when you say simplifying compliance, it's not to say here's a lot of other admin work. It's basically integrated into your daily routine.
Okay. All right. Now, for folks who've not started, done anything, well, today's the 28th. Okay, so you've got 3 days, and then my golly, we're going into holiday. Nobody's doing anything, but still, it needs to be done, isn't it? So where would you say? Start. This is how you should start off. This is what you should do at least. And anybody and everybody, because this is for everybody. It's not just if you own a business. It's anybody who is in whatever level where there's a tax obligation for you. So what would you say you should do? How do you start, Caine?
So the first prerequisite is you need a PIN. It's I think it was mentioned some months back that there are 30 million mobile money accounts, but 7 million PINs in the country. So there's a gap there. So the first thing is get a PIN if you don't have one. Then you need to sign up. There are various options, but if you're using Digitax, for example, you'd then go to our platform, digitax.tech. You'd sign up, create your account, and then you'd be sent a set of instructions, because one requirement is, as a taxpayer, you have to be the one to basically indicate this is the option I want. So as a taxpayer, you'd go and fill in a form that KRA provide, upload it onto an eTIMS specific portal, and then choose the various options. So for example, if you're using Digitax, it would be a specific option. If you want any other KRA solution, for example, you'd choose that option. So once you do that, then they then review everything in the KRA back office, and then they approve, and you're essentially live. Now at that point, you can start generating tax transactions. So I think for most people in business, they probably already have a PIN. But now remember the point around the expenses, anyone you deal with. So, if you have a border rider who brings you deliveries, if you have a kiosk that supplies your office milk or supplies your business, is now to think through how do you ensure that they're tax compliant, so that you don't fail to recognize that expense in the context of a tax invoice. So high level, that's the process. PIN, you register, and then you get approved, and you're live to go on eTIMS.
CT said this thing is very hard. does difficult, making CT frown, and we don't like to see CT frown. So we want to do a walkthrough. What does it look like? How are we supposed to go? So CT, go.
Well, this is what you do. You search for Digitax. Then you've got this green thing staring at you. And then they tell you to sign in or test for free.
Okay.
Okay. Now, to sign in, I thought they would say, okay, let me see. What does this sign in do?
Sign in would assume that you've been there before, no?
Yeah, I haven't been there, but I'm just going to figure out.
Okay, here we go.
Then they tell me, sign in to continue Digitax. Well, this is going to be a bit difficult because I need to sign up.
Yes.
Okay. So now, when you go to sign up, they tell you the usual thing: first name, blah 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 blah, phone number, etc., password for what, and then you continue.
It's important.
Why is a password important?
Various reasons. One, it's your tax data. You know, you don't want anyone accessing your tax data without your permission.
Okay.
But then what you've also done, there are a couple of ways to sign up. So you can sign up with a Google account. Most people who have email accounts don't need to then remember yet another password. You can also sign up with a Microsoft account. You can sign up with a phone number. So if you prefer to use a phone number for your account, you can do so. But you just need to do it once. The idea there is to protect your data. Of course, now with the laws around data protection, you don't want anyone's data being misused out there. So sign up is a first step, but we've tried to give various options depending on your preference as a user.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as CT navigates these murky waters of trying to sign in or sign up, what essentially would happen next after you have then signed up and then it's asking you certain things to do?
Yeah.
Because, you know, if we can make the process live for folks who are thinking and sitting, well, okay, whatever, I'm not going to sign up. And as he does that, why is it necessary for us to do this? And I think the importance of this, of activating this, maybe, you know, flies over our heads.
Okay. There are two aspects. So one is as a licensed entity, there are certain rules and regulations you have to follow. So you didn't want me, for example, to come and take your PIN without your knowledge or your consent and start generating transactions. You just get slapped with a tax bill. So the first step is to make sure you've actually verified who is actually on your system.
Okay.
So there are two steps to that. The first one is the process he's going through of signing up. And then once you sign up, you need to create a profile and your tax account. The importance of that is also KRA wants to be sure that as a taxpayer, you're explicitly consenting to using Digitax. So that's now where I was talking about the process of creating a profile and then getting a form, which you then need to fill in and then submit to the eTIMS portal. So at that point, we know you have an intention to use our platform as Digitax by signing up, and KRA have the comfort that as a taxpayer, you have chosen Digitax to then basically be your tax solution. So once you go through those processes, KRA are happy with it, you then get an active account. So once you do that, you can then now start transacting. So a lot of this is actually, all these steps is at the end of the day to protect the taxpayer. You just don't want their data being misused in the wrong hands or obligations being created on your behalf without your knowledge.
So does Digitax or any other integrator, not aggregator, integrator then charge me for using the service?
Yes. So as for those of us who are licensed as integrators, we do charge. There are various fees or, you know, of course, costs we used to build the system. So we then charge for use of Digitax. So if you feel it's good for your use case or relevant for your business, we would then charge. But then that depends if we've tried to be, of course, reasonable about it. We wouldn't want to also make people go too much out of pocket. Idea here being, yes, you may feel that Digitax as a solution fits your use case better, but then you also don't want it to be too burdensome to be compliant.
Okay. CT, are you okay? Still breathing?
No, this thing is perfectly all right.
Okay. All right. We'll give you a few more minutes. Folks complain that eTIMS essentially is relieving or would then relieve businesses of key personnel.
No,
is that true?
I wouldn't say so. it gives, I would say, if anything, gives better visibility into your business in a way. Here's why. If I make a decision that I want to use a certain solution for each and every business transaction, Take the example of a shop owner. So you have a shop, say you have a salon, a barber shop, you sell clothes, whatever it is you do.
Let's go with salon. We started with salon this week. We like salon. Okay.
Nice. Okay, fantastic. So you have a salon and you have workers, hairdressers, whatever the case may be. And, customers come and at the end of it, you give them a tax invoice. Now, if you're diligent about the process, as a business owner, you can actually think this can actually give me very good insights.
Right.
Who are my customers? When do they come? How much do they spend? What else can I do? Because the thing about eTIMS is each invoice has to be detailed. So if you came and say I got a blow dry, for example, that has to be itemized. So if you came and said did a pedicure, manicure, whatever the case may be.
I'm just impressed that you know the things that happen in the salon.
It's good to be knowledgeable. It's good to be knowledgeable.
All those details by simply theorizing. Let's continue.
It's good to be knowledgeable. Anyway, so all these services that you offer, you then itemize them on the receipt. So with time, you then now say, okay, this is what my customers like. This is what maybe I should focus more on, and so on and so forth. So for businesses, it's also an opportunity to get very good insights into how their business runs and how they can optimize or make their business more profitable. So our message to businesses is usually, especially if you've come from a situation where you're doing a lot of things manually, like on a cash book, you also want to look at the upside. There's an opportunity also for you to streamline a lot of information gaps that you may have had by basically automating and making sure everything is backed with a tax receipt. So I would say most people have actually received that positively. And of course, making sure that you comply with everything else. So at the end of the day, with eTIMS, it's really how, I don't use the word embrace, but it's how you adopt to it. It's more making sure that process-wise, in terms of how you run your business, you've basically come up with routines, process, and systems to make each and every invoice is receipted properly. That way, you can then actually now use this information to further improve your business.
By the way, this process is actually fairly seamless.
Oh, really? Where have we reached now, CT?
I've reached everything. I've signed up. I've been told before they tell you succccessly signed up, you want to verify whether you're human.
Okay. Are you human according to this?
They told me I'm human.
Fantastic. Okay.
But it's actually very simple, very straightforward.
Okay.
Name, email address, usually phone, give you a choice. You want to register using Google, using Microsoft, all that. I prefer the email.
Okay.
So once you've gone through that process, then they send you a verification code. And once that verification code has been verified, so to speak,
right,
and you fill it in, and then
so you're at voila.
That's it.
Okay.
And then you can now use
the thing.
Yes, you
so
can.
What happens now that CT is human and he's verified and all of this and he's onto the thing? What happens now? He starts to input all his information, or what happens next?
So he just needs to create a profile and add his business. So with business now, he'd add either his personal PIN or his business PIN. Once you do that, we send you an email. It then guides you on how to fill in the form KRA require. So there is certain information KRA want to verify. Are you the taxpayer? There's some details they need from you as a taxpayer. Once you fill in that form, we then inform you in the email how to upload it onto the KRA system. So KRA will send you an OTP based on the information you shared with KRA, just to verify it's you. And then once they review and sign up, you get an SMS, and then we take you live, and you're in business.
Take your life?
No, we take you live. No. We are not in that business. No.
Hey, you're verifying that he's human. Now you want to
take his life.
We take you live.
Okay. All right. We take you live. So, as that now starts happening and you upload this, now you start to actually put in your I'm going to workflow, or in terms of your transactions and things that you have done.
Yes.
Now, when you're working as an individual, okay, it sounds very hoity-toity for somebody, for lack of a better word, for somebody who has never interacted with this kind of technology before. I don't care if the person has a smartphone. Usually what they're doing is they're going to look at some social media a little bit, and even or do a WhatsApp. But in terms of this interaction, has never happened. Maybe don't have an email address.
Yes.
So is it user friendly?
We've tried to make it as user friendly as possible. One of the options actually is your phone number.
Okay.
So if you don't prefer your email or you don't have an email, you can use your phone number. We'll also go through the verification process. Now, the thing about eTIMS, which you can't escape, is it's an online or a technology-driven system. So you need some kind of technology. I'm aware there are USSD options and other ways of generating invoices that have been provided by KRA. However, what we've tried to do as Digitax is for those using their phone, even if it's a very basic smartphone, we've tried to make it as seamless as possible. Now, one thing, of course, because you've basically been given the ability to help businesses and individuals be tax compliant, is to then think through how do you simplify the user experience for them. So let me give you an example. You have very many suppliers, and you may feel it may be easier for you to see how you can streamline the process of them giving you an invoice, because you've maybe streamlined even how you pay them and everything. But now with eTIMS, they always have to give you an invoice. So if you have thousands of suppliers, the question then becomes, how do I then start verifying all these thousands of invoices coming my way? So there's been this initiative around reverse invoicing. So what reverse invoicing basically means is you can, as a supplier, if you get consent, you can then, if you give consent as a supplier, the buyer can then basically generate the information on your behalf, and then you approve as a taxpayer. So if let's use the example of a border rider. I brought you a parcel or a letter, and I'll ask you for a tax invoice because that's an expense. But they may not be able to for one reason or another. So in that scenario, what you then do is get permission from this person and say, can I generate the invoice on your behalf? So now that's where now innovation, streamlining the process comes in. And the thing is, because eTIMS is fairly flexible in the sense that when you build solutions, it's how you build solutions to basically make this process as easy as possible while still making sure someone is fully tax compliant. So now these are where now you'll find with time other ideas, other innovations, even more streamlining will happen.
Okay. Anytime one talks about tax, at least when I talk about tax, I first freeze. Before I move forward. But let me just talk about the experience I've just had with this. What I liked most is how it is you walk someone through the process of actually creating a relationship with eTIMS. You tell them how to use this, what to do next. That is often the problem. Because I may actually want to pay my tax, but if in just a simple process of application, I am daunted, I will not move forward. I feel this thing is a little too difficult. And but if I can be walked through, you see, once I do it once, the second time will be less difficult. Third time it will now be easy. Fourth time I now know what to do. And that is usually the issue. In fact, when we've had KRA officers here, it's a discussion we've had with them and said, some of these processes, people need to be told exactly what to do. They may want to, but they get stunted. You want to go online, something happens. It happens once or twice, then you're stuck. Yes. Then you're given a number to call, and you call that number. If it doesn't work, then you have a problem. If there's a delay and you're told to hold on, immediately, everything about it. Now, how it is not possible for anything to be absolutely seamless, especially when you're dealing with an entire population of people. But it can be less painful. Yes.
So what we've tried to do, we've tried to have various ways of actively communicating how to use Digitax. So for example, we do webinars thrice a week. So in case you feel you'd like an end-to-end walkthrough, we have a team that will do a webinar and take you through Digitax. We have videos and how-to guides. This is how you sign up. This is how you go through the process of creating your account, creating the items you sell, creating an invoice, and so on and so forth. We've also introduced a chat feature. So within the app, you can actually go and click on the chat button, interact with us in real time. And of course, we're always available on phone. So to your point, I think many people are, of course, now really engaging in terms of being tax compliant for the first time.
Yeah.
And there are very many who I know are not doing it out of not wanting to pay. They're just not maybe fully informed, or they feel there are challenges. They'd like someone to help them think through. Now, to be clear, we as Digitax, we don't manage tax laws or tax policy. That is managed by the government and carrier themselves. However, based on the guidelines given, would then look in terms of advising you, okay, this is what you need to do to be compliant. But we'd always tell you, please reach out to someone knowledgeable in tax matters to be able to tell you, for this item, this is how you need to categorize it. Yeah. So, of course, as you're aware, there are many tax categories. There are things that are tax exempt, for example, there are things you have to pay VAT on. So it's always important to be knowledgeable, because ultimately, as a taxpayer, you're responsible for the information you send. We can manage it as Digitax, and of course, we would then make sure it's a compliant tax invoice, but the data and the information sent actually belongs to and is owned by the taxpayer. So it's important also you understand your responsibilities and make sure you're not sending false information as well. Yeah.
So, I mean, we look at all of this, and I'm sure, look, like CT says, you hear, the first time you hear tax, you feel some amount of trepidation, and you're like, oh God, what have I done?
Yeah.
And then also at the same time, you're thinking, okay, so why are they coming for us? I mean, good grief, how many taxes really can, those are the conversations that come into our head when we hear anything about tax.
Yeah.
But then the issue of tax compliance, then when you talk about your responsibility as a citizen in this country, or any country for that matter, then why is it important for us all to align?
Yeah, so from a tax tax compliance standpoint, and I really don't get into the murky side of it.
Jump in, Caine.
Yeah,
why not?
So the way we look at it is, as I was mentioning at the beginning of the show, taxes are eternal. Yeah, and you could always say, I don't like this tax, I don't like that tax. But for the tax you have to pay, is then asking yourself, what's the best way for me to go about it? The whole point around making tax compliance easier, simpler, and faster is to ensure for whatever you're obligated to pay, we try to offer you the best user experience and to give you the right tools and options to be tax compliant. The reality of it is, even if you say today, I won't pay tax, or I'll minimize the tax I pay.
Yeah.
One way or another, it'll catch up with you. You always hear stories of people who file nil returns, but their lifestyle does not align with the tax they file. Now, with technology and with big data and all these things around AI now happening, you'll find it's very easy to analyze this data and see there's a gap, or there's incompatibility between what is visible and what you're actually remitting as tax. Now, the other thing I would say on that is, when you think about running a business, well, it's also important to realize with time, there are many businesses that will want to deal with you on the basis of how well you've complied with any laws or regulations that are required of you as a business. That's why, normally, even when you're applying for a job, they'll ask you for police clearance, for example. Now, when you're putting in a bid, they'll ask you for a tax clearance certificate. Yeah. Now, with eTIMS, I think what you'll quickly find is with time, the basis of being cleared will be based on how accurate and how regularly you submit the right data. And if you don't have this kind of documents with you, then it becomes very difficult to win business, because no one wants to be on the hook with an entity or an individual that has tax issues, because that now becomes a risk to them. So I think for me, the message there would be, the earlier you've streamlined everything, the better. It serves you well down the road. Yeah.
Every time one talks about tax, and one talks about the process of actually ensuring that you're tax compliant, what we're doing now is perhaps part of that journey of getting people to be tax compliant. And now that we're in the digital age and we have gadgets to help us navigate that particular terrain, I guess it becomes easier. Let me ask this question. What happens if you do know to people who do not register by the end of this particular deadline? Do you foresee a situation where the deadline may be extended?
I can't say yes or no. That's for KRA to say. However, what I'll say is this. Now, it's important to note what March 31st signified, yeah? it was actually a compliance window, not a deadline. What I mean by that is you are basically given up to March 31st to bring all your 2024 records up to date, because the date of transition was January 1st. Now, what they said is you have up to March 31st to make sure everything between January and March is up to date. So that from April now, you basically don't start backdating or trying to feed in historical invoices for people to catch up. Now, we've of course tried to see what we can do. So, for example, we offer bulk upload of historical invoices. So if you come to us and say you want to use Digitax, you can then say, okay, give us all the invoices for this year's to date,
and let's do it,
and we'll upload it for you. So March 31st was actually a compliance window. In case it changes, of course, we will hear from KRA. But the latest information is that's the date. So in many ways, today is actually the effective last date, because today is the last work day. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, of course, and Monday is a break. So second is now, I'm sure many people also be now thinking, okay, what do I need to do? Because now the window has closed.
Exactly. Do you think that we can get to a place, and because obviously you're dealing with matters tax and then also seeing what's been going on in the country, KRA has been, complaining for years about how, people are not banked, and if they're not banked, then they're not they're not formal, and because they're not formal, then we do not have a trace on what they're doing. Do you think this will bring about maybe a further urge to have people get formalized tax-wise?
I tend to look at it differently. When you say a business is informal, it's a misnomer, in the sense that someone in business is in business. When you say they're informal, it just means you don't have visibility. But them getting a PIN, getting tax compliant, it won't change how they operate. So they don't suddenly change from one thing to another. However, what you want to do is help them actually now be compliant. In my career so far, I've had to engage with many businesses that we call informal, but what we've realized is they're very willing to embrace technology, especially if they see value. So it's not about saying, you're informal, I want to make you formal. Just saying, no, I just want to make sure you're... Actually, in many ways, you kind of put someone off by saying, you're informal, I want to formalize you. What you're just saying is, look, this is how you run your business, and we're not asking you to change many aspects. All you are saying is, please follow these guidelines to be compliant, for example. And you'll find it's very easy for businesses to embrace technology. It's with focus and, making sure that you've taken their concerns into account, you can actually make the business very, very willing to actually make this transition.
So it's actually then to your advantage, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, I mean, it's been an enlightening conversation, and today is the day, essentially, because we're looking at other days where today is the day. So let's see what happens with eTIMS as we come then into the month of April. Caine Wanjau is the co-founder and CEO of Namiri Technology. Thank you for being here this morning, sharing a lot of that and why we can all get on Digitax and get this done and be seen and be made visible. Thanks for being here this morning. Another conversation in the offing, I'm sure, in the near future as we go into matters tax and everything else. And thanks to all of you for being part of Kenya's biggest conversation.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.